And we are here on the left side of the bracket for a very exciting semifinal match. This is the Grim Flayer back with my good friend the Dogfish. Dogfish, how you doing, buddy? How's your voice holding up? It's a lot of commentary for you. You've been doing great so far. Who do you like in this match? Take it away.
Oh, this match is going to be another tight one, but I think we have a favorite post side. So I think this Izzet deck might be the favorite post side. I think it will be very important for Kami to get a game one win here.
I agree. Do you think the Izzet deck from Nastier has a wrong half of the problem game one, and that he could be maybe caught in a spot where he can't quite race them, can't quite go under Kami, but also doesn't have enough interaction to stop Kami from winning?
I think that's definitely a likely scenario. I think he definitely has to stop Kami from winning in this first game. I really think he has to stop him from going off to have enough. I think that's got to be priority A.
Right. Yeah, there is some scope to go underneath, but they both mulligan to 6. Maybe if Nastier did not mull and kept a fast hand and Kami took him all, then he would be incentivized to try to race shove all in before the combo is found. But as things stand, I do agree.
If we can land any of these big bodies onto the battlefield, there's very hard ways to answer other than just throwing bodies underneath. So if we get our board swept, it'll be pretty rough.
Yeah, definitely.
Kami is in a slightly weird spot here. He's got a few things to do, but his hand is a little gummed up.
Yep, looking that way. But the removal's a nice kind of fail-safe. But really, he wants to be operating more along the plan A. We've got Monolith in hand for Kami. That's definitely, or excuse me, yeah, that's definitely something that's quite significant.
We talked about that. Yeah, talked about that being important to stop him from going off this first time, and you might have a window to push some damage here.
Yeah, the big problem is only one blue source. His 2 threats in hand are Sprite Dragon and now a recently drawn Delver of Secrets, so he cannot have his cake and eat it too, and he's erring on the side of his...
We just topped the big land here that actually lets us be able to go off in a few different ways. We were missing that green source for a few turns that it is probably going to lead to at least Kami or Nastier might need a second answer here pretty soon. Put it that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, and he's still lacking the second blue. He's still lacking a red threat like the Pyro he deployed. He has drawn an opt, but it sounds like that's something that would have been better a couple turns ago, right? Now, seems like Kami is going to force the issue. And the difference in the land bases of the various Izzet decks we've seen continues to be a striking thing for me. Seeing Ramanop Ruins, which is a really powerful and I think intelligent choice, but maybe if it were a dual land, Nastier could have gotten a little bit further. As is, Monolith takes care of the first living end, but sounds like there's another one in store. Is that right?
We have a Bloodbraid Elf in hand, so we have another way to spin the wheel here.
Yep, and that's all. Kami shields down, so...
Interesting choice there.
Cycling the Minotaur.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure there what that was about. That one, I figure you would just windmill slam and try and... I think the bodies you had were enough, but maybe I'm missing something here.
I tend to completely agree with you, but there's no other permission in Nastier's hand, so I think Nastier has the same read we do. He's taking the aggressive line, I guess, assuming that the combo is not rolled up. Kami may be playing for a higher upside here, maybe playing not to, get killed on the crackback with a really nutty turn. I'm not sure, but either way, Nastier not able to punish the sequencing, and Archfiend of Ifnir is just
Yeah, man, this living end deck is just honestly pretty scary.
Really, really.
I just really, especially game one, I think this is the one you want to make sure you win if you're Kami, which I do think he's favored in game one. Game
Yep.
two, when more counter magic comes in, which is available to Nastier, I think his chances at least improve quite a bit.
I agree for sure. Uh, amusingly, Deadshot Minotaur is not a May, so Minotaur will take care of the Archfiend. A little bit of friendly fire on the living end side. I think the board is big enough, though, that it's not going to be much of an issue.
Yeah, that's definitely what it used to hit Fairy Macabre back in the day in the
Yep,
early
yep.
living end days, occasionally friendly
Absolutely.
fire.
It's part of what you sign up for. But there's some scope here to do some nice value things with Pyromancer. There's a beautiful copy of Fairy Conclave with an old border that gets bottomed, and it's just simply not going to be enough. Yeah, we need a little bit more of a streamlined game plan post side. One of the strengths, of course, is that these Izzet decks are really well rounded. They can take it to the house in a pretty quick manner against the opponent, no matter how they're configured. They've got a lot of relevant interaction, but against a really powerful, somewhat linear deck like Living End, you can really fall afoul of that in game one, as you've identified.
Yeah, and Living End's one of those decks where you have to fight on multiple axes to really win, and your timing of your sequencing really matters because there's kind of big windows for both players. So you really want to make
Yes.
sure you're doing the right things in the right windows, or you end up sort of behind from either side playing Living End or playing against Living End.
Yeah, very true.
And you mentioned about the Izzet deck's mana bases. I think it was the hardest deck probably to brew because Lightning Bolt is one of the most expensive cards in the format. So I think how much you spent investing in the Lightning Bolts in this tournament really affected how well you could make your mana base or what direction you kind of wanted to take these Izzet mana bases. And you can check that out when you go to sideboarding here on this build.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Especially, and that's why we saw Guy only register one lightning bolt in a straight up prowess deck, and that to your point.
Yeah, in this format, I think the 2 damage is either going to be enough. That there are so many other spells in that very red heavy list that
Yeah, exactly. I am taking a sneak peek ahead because we're in a fairly deterministic board state right now. Although we're putting up a good fight, but I'm taking a sneak peek ahead. Nastier will have Tormod's Crypt ×2 and Spell Pierce ×3 to bring in some very powerful cards, and also a couple copies of Echoing Truth. I think there's a lot of scope to play that if you look, for example, at what an Echoing Truth would do against this board on Deadshot Minotaur. There's a lot of 4-ofs over there. You would have a reasonable chance of playing the Pyro value game if you could supplement it with a really nice bounce effect. So we'll be interested to see if he reaches for that, but certainly the Pierces, the Crypts seem great.
Yeah, I don't know that Kami would have to do much different other than maybe being conscious of having to land a second Living End.
Yep, definitely want to be prepared for that. Kami does have Ricochet Trap if he wants to compete over the permission. And Nahiri's Wrath is an interesting option as well. I don't know exactly how he's conceived of Nahiri's Wrath in the context of his deck, because with Living End, it's always a question of what do you side out, right? And I don't know that he'll want to side too far out of some of his alternative win cons, so it'll be really interested to see almost more what comes out than comes in for Kami. But
yeah, I wouldn't think he needs to do much. I still think he's the one to be stopped in this match.
Yep.
I just think he definitely needs to be prepared, at least in a sequencing, to go two or three possible. We do not want to see another one of his triple Living End hands.
That's for sure.
Probably post games here.
All right, so Sleight of Hand is going to show us a Delver of Secrets. The lack of a second blue continues to be crippling, and a lightning bolt. We'll take the bolt, but the GGs are sent in chat, and now we're going to sideboarding. So right away, we're seeing Nastier reach for the exact things I was just talking about, the Pierces and the Crypts, and Light Up the Stage is looking like the likeliest candidate. What do you got going on to come out? What have you got going on over there?
First cards, a couple quick ricochet traps come in, a few cyclers come out, and a couple damage spells. And we are bringing in at least one rhino from the looks of things here. Actually going heavier on rhinos, taking out our spot removal.
Interesting.
I just think, if he just doesn't just go all in on resolving, and I think you're fine hammering your way through a little army of tokens if you need to. I like it.
I like it too. Makes a lot of sense. The final cut for the 5 cards, in addition to the 4 light ups, was a single burst lightning. Nastier does not reach for echoing truth. I understand why, staying along the plan of stopping the combo from going off in the first place and retaining the capacity to race. It's a real question of what do you cut. I do wonder if there is some scope to trim away from the card Delver of Secrets or Young Pyromancer, one of the two. Maybe trim around the edges a little bit. Something I would at least consider. But I think he's got the stuff he definitely wants. That is 100% for sure. And we'll see how it all plays out. But definitely an interesting one.
I think you got to keep the density high on those creature cards, because really, I think your best way is to get 1 or 2 threats out on the board and then just survive 2 living ends. You have to really, I don't see you rebuilding a board that can beat this deck. So I feel like you really has to get a couple of those cheap creatures out there, which might not be all that good of a clock realistically. But it's kind of what he has to do.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with that. And we've got a head scratcher here for Nastier. It's a solid hand, but he's opening on double island, so the opposite problem he has before. And now he mulligans to an only mountains hand. He's got to go down to 5. So unlucky. I didn't get a good look at the 6. The 7 was a perfectly valid keep. Had Spell Pierce, Pyro, and some other coherent stuff. But the land base just really not working for him here. Really unlucky.
The 5 ticks mana base. This is definitely, as a player in this tournament, has been one of the most difficult things to overcome, the variance of your mana base.
Yeah. This is clear.
Tommy's staring down a pretty good hand here. He can suspend a rhino early, and then he has a bunch of cyclers and a couple ricochet traps to choose from.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm looking at that hand now. I'd probably bottom a ricochet trap here, even though it's a good card. With only one land, the scope for holding it up is very limited, and that's what he does. Okay, makes sense.
Yep, agreed.
Nastier is going to keep the 5. He's got functional mana at last. He's going to bottom a Bedlam Reveler and a Ramanop Ruins, keeping a mono threats 5. 1 mountain, 1 island, 1 sprite dragon, and 2 young pyros. He's got to just feel so bad here. The 7 that he should have been able to open on if he didn't happen to draw double island for his 2 lands would have been very balanced. Now he's just basically in a spot where he hopes the combo is not in hand anytime soon.
Tommy has a slow but sure kind of start. He's got the counter spell and he's got a bunch of cyclers, so he just got to get into the cards. But I guess for Nastier to have a chance, he at least needed it to be slow to even be in the race here. So I feel he's a little behind now. Mulling deep against this deck, as you mentioned, is just not really enough to present enough pressure and have the stuff to counter the spells that you need to.
Yeah, and the top decks have been nominally decent in practice. They're pretty awkward. It's 2 lava darts. It's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, that's not what we need. At this point, you'd almost rather just draw mono leaks and try to win with like 2-1 beaters and not even worry about going wide.
Well, Kami did just put one of his living ends into his hand off the draw here.
That's the real win condition for Nastia.
Still a slew of cyclers and a ricochet trap and one living end. So
gotcha.
He's still just digging. Okay, we do have an actual clock.
Yep. And the lava dart's going to be fired off here, we assume.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to here. Just try and get to lethal here as fast as you can before living end and rhinos come down.
Yeah, exactly. What turn will that rhino hit? Turn 4 or 5?
It's two turns away. Here,
okay, so on turn 5.
And that's definitely, if he can get a living end off before that, even. Whew.
Yeah, imagine that.
Blood braid into hand and the land, so it's not looking like that. It's looking like we're gonna hit a living end here.
Yeah, he could cascade and do another rhinos though.
True.
But even that's really hard. Even that's really hard to beat though.
Hits into the old violent outburst.
There it is. Okay, well,
rhinos. Oh,
less bad than living end, but still, again, pretty tough to beat.
Hey, I mean, that is.
How about that echoing truth now? That'd be a little nutty, actually.
Echoing truth, I think you were right that he really wanted to have that in, especially with your call on the rhinos coming to be a card. You know, he puts them in. That's definitely a free bounce. Imagine hitting 4 rhinos this next turn.
Yeah, man, or even he might even have lethal if he just like untapped Drew a Truth because he's got another lava dart in hand. He can cash one in from the graveyard. It'd be close, but yeah, another land off the top. Not what we need. However, there is a chance that Sprite Dragon can just go all the way because the rhinos along the ground at this point. Maybe not going to do enough.
Honestly, it's not that many turns that it takes for this solo dragon to close out the game, but these rhinos can start bringing a pretty big clock.
Yeah.
That's getting tough because Kami won't be able to attack. So he's literally probably just stalling for a living end here.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. We got a little wrapped up, and I think reasonably so, in some of the other things we've been talking about, but Sprite Dragon really just able to steal this game here.
Yeah, it's pretty much living under bust. I think you're going to lose to this Sprite Dragon here.
Wow. On the
Nastier is just, we just drew, he just drew the violent outburst here for turn. So he might have 1 rhino left in the deck here, but he should have a living end out.
Okay, he drew violent outburst. Got it.
Yep. I think we have 1 rhino left in the deck though, so you never know. We could dud.
This is an interesting block. We are number 1 engineering a trade, number 2 saving a couple points of life because the rhinos trample, and also putting some things into the graveyard in case of a future living end of the game going longer. But we've got an instant speed living end, violent outburst. There it is.
Yeah, I think that was the best block Nastier could have made there.
Yep.
And that was good, good of him.
Once again, well played here by both pilots that we're seeing. And yeah,
this was off a mull to 5 too.
It was.
Nastier.
And he's flooding at the end of it too. I mean, it's just
things put up a pretty
much
good
worse for him. He really did.
Yeah, for how bad it kind of the cards laid out for him, he did play everything pretty optimally.
No question about it.
And had a great window to win on a mull to 5.
Yes.
Without that top deck, I mean, we're still looking at a few cyclers and a few more chances to dig, but it coming off the top right there. Pretty much, it was we were saying living under bus. So
Yeah, exactly. You called it. And the predictions look like they're about to be proven wrong here. I think most of us would have had the ball firmly in the court of the Izzet player of Nostier over the course of the full 3 anyway. And now it's like, well, young Pyromancer off the top, not going to be sufficient.
and we did see at least how the prowess deck would beat this living end deck
Absolutely.
of getting really wide and avoiding the second copies of living end, and we just fell slightly short, and that's just due to resources on the mall. So
yeah,
good gameplay by everybody here.
No question. Honestly, I think if that opening 7 that I saw, if one of those blue lands was a red land, we would be looking at a game 3 here. But that was not to be. So we have very, very interesting gameplay all throughout. And that one definitely took me by surprise. I had Nostier really ready to go through here, but well done to both players. Congrats to Kaminet. We are moving the living end player into the finals on the back of this win. Anything else to say, my friend, before we wrap this video up?
I don't think so. We're definitely seeing the fall of some of the measuring stick. Izzet decks taking a hit here, even though they made their way all the way to the top 8 in the highest density. And congrats to Kaminet for making it to the final.
Yeah,